can still play. There's no question about that as long as he just stays to the script and all that other stuff, and he's going to be fine. And Cooper Kupp ended up with more catches than he did last night. I was thinking as the first half was going on, I wonder if Cooper Kupp is getting upset. You see how wide receivers can get.
Sure, of course.
But he ended up getting more catches anyway. And Matthew Stafford didn't have to do too much because, Kyler Murray was absolutely brutal. I mean, he looked like he was a deer in the headlights. He was scared. He looked like he was a high school quarterback, for God's sake. He was 7 of 17 for 28 yards, those 2 interceptions. The interception in the end zone. Now, so he does some things that Carson Wentz does, by the way. He did this on Christmas against the Colts, and it ended up in a safety for the Colts. Same thing. Same kind of goofy, weird thing, and it makes you wonder whether or not, the Cardinals not going to give him a contract extension. And Cliff Kingsbury's got to be on thin ice out there. The last 3 years that those two guys have been there, they've lost 7 of 9 in 2019, 5 of 7 in 2020.
You're talking about to end the season, right?
Yes. Yeah. This is the way they ended the season. And this year they lost 5 of 6. And, they beat the Cowboys. That was their last win out of their last final 6 games. And when you think about those finishes, and then I went back and I looked at Cliff Kingsbury when he was at Texas Tech.
Same thing.
He had 5 years of the same crap where the team just absolutely collapsed. So you have enough of a body of work to see that Cliff Kingsbury is not a great coach at all. I mean, he may be the air raid offense, and let's bring in, Kyler Murray and, the Heisman Trophy winner, and we're going to do all this. Hey, look, you know what we've seen this week? The physical teams are the teams that win. And, the Rams were physical last night. The 49ers were physical on Sunday. The Bucs were physical on Sunday. And you talking about there were 6 games over the weekend. The Bills scored 47 points. The Bucs scored 31 points. The Chiefs scored 42 points. And the Rams last night, after they took their foot off the gas, scored 34 points. And, obviously their defense scored 6 of those 34 points. The Bengals and the Raiders and the Niners and the Cowboys were the only 2 close games, by the way, 26-19 and 23-17. But, man, when you take a look at what Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray have done, I mean, it's brutal.
So here's the win-loss. So his first games 1 through 7 as a head coach, Cliff Kingsbury, between Texas Tech and Arizona, 42-20-1, which is spectacular. The rest of the year, 16-43.
Yeah, and then he said he has the guts to say last night after the game, well, maybe my guys just weren't ready for playoff football.
I mean, come on.
I mean, you're the coach. You're supposed to be, you got the hair going, you got everything else going, you're looking good on the sideline. Mm-hmm. You're the one that's got to get them up to another level. The problem is, it'd be one thing if it's 1 year or 2 years. It's
every
now
year.
3 years, and then when you go back to college, it's every year he's been a head coach. His team has collapsed.
Yeah, really bad. As you mentioned, 2-7, 3-6, 3-5 the last 3 years.
Yeah, I picked them to win this week.
Did you?
I did.
Yeah, I was rooting for them, and I think I picked them to cover as well, but I didn't feel great about that.
They were just I don't even know how to explain. Kyler Murray was like I said, a deer in the headlights, and I mean, he looked scared.
Yeah, very strange, which is someone who he played big-time college football. He's always had a chip on his shoulder because of his size, number 1 overall pick. I mean, has been in big games and high-pressure situations. It seemed like the moment was too big for him last night.
You can't play quarterback the way he plays it. You just can't. And Drew Brees was his size, maybe a little bit, maybe an inch bigger. And Drew Brees, for whatever reason, had the ability to stand in the pocket, know where to throw the ball, how to throw the ball, and when to throw the ball. This kid is every time you watch him, there's 8 or 9 plays in a game where he just takes off running for no reason.
Yeah.
And tries to make a play down the field. And it's sandlot football. And if you watch the great quarterbacks, you watch Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, they stand in there. Even Matthew Stafford, he's not running with the ball, although he ran a little bit last night, but they're all going to stand in there. They're going to read the defense. They're going to know where to go with the ball, and they're going to let it rip. And they're going to be accurate with it. Not run around like your hair is on fire and just try to keep making big play after big play. So to me, that makes me wonder whether or not he prepares correctly, whether or not he's really into his offense, or does he
using
understand
the natural talent that he has, because that's what he's gotten away with his entire career.
If Peyton Manning has ever taught anybody anything, and I learned this from Sam Weish, you got to be totally immersed in your offense. You have to be able to understand everything that the coaches are trying to do. And some kids, get it, and some kids don't. And Kyler Murray cannot live to play like this. You can't. And you can't trust a guy like him and give him $40 million a year.
Well, there's two guys who, when they're going right, they're the two most exciting players in football and feel like they could win MVPs, and one has. And when they're going wrong and things aren't going well and are facing good defenses in the postseason, they seem to crumble, and that is Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson. Two guys who haven't gotten big contracts yet,
yes.
But it really is. There's a similar situation with those two guys in the way they play the position. The fact that when they're going good, I mean, there's no more two fun quarterbacks to watch because they're running around doing all sorts of crazy stuff. But then when push comes to shove in situations like last night, they're not going to be there. And we've seen Lamar Jackson in the playoffs against good defenses crumble as well.
They don't play the position the way the position's supposed to be played. That's why. And here's the thing. There's two players right now that I'm giving contract extension to when the opportunity arises. And those two quarterbacks happen to be Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. You can tell. You can see. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be somebody who's played the position. You could be anybody out there. You could be a fan. You could be, you know the game. You watch the game. You see the game, and you see how a guy reacts to pass rushes, how they react to blitzes, how they react to the big moments, and how they play their games. And when you watch those two in particular, you know that the Bengals and the Chargers have something for the next 10 years. They do. They absolutely do. You can't say that about many other young quarterbacks. Now, the Bills recognize that with Josh Allen. That's why they gave him the big contract. Of course, the Kansas City Chiefs recognize that with Patrick Mahomes. That's why he got the $450 million contract. This Tom Brady's been doing it. Aaron Rodgers has been doing it. Good for Matthew Stafford. He got his first win, but now, they got to go on the road and they got to go win in Tampa. And these two teams are very similar to each other. And I would actually say that maybe, at least at the wide receiver position, you feel like maybe Matthew Stafford has a little bit of an edge just simply because Chris Godwin's out and Antonio Brown's on vacation.
And I tell you, both those games to me are coin toss type of games.
Yeah.
I mean, really, they could go either way.
Well, the divisional round's always the best round anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I always used to get more excited for the championship weekend because it was like the last weekend of real football, and you win, you go to the Super Bowl. But obviously, there's 2 days of football and divisional weekend.
We got 4 games.
You got 4 games.
And for the most part, when you think about it, you got Burrow's the new young quarterback that has made the playoffs. You have Ryan Tannehill, who's been there for a while now. You, of course, have Jimmy Garoppolo and Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be hopefully an epic game Saturday night at 8:15. And then, of course, you got Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady. Good luck beating Tom Brady down there in Tampa.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have that pass rush. But, the one thing about Kyler Murray, if you watch from the All-22, that's, the high angle every time, whenever they showed it. I mean, there are guys running wide open. I mean, and he's just not pulling the trigger. He's just not throwing it. I don't know if he's not seeing it. I don't know if he's afraid to throw it. He's not trusting it. He just had an off night. I am not giving that guy a contract extension at all. Not even close.
But this is one of those situations again, and you always throw this at me. Well, what's the alternative? What's the alternative with some of these guys? Well, I mean, when you're talking about someone who has been pretty good throughout his career in the regular season in Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson who won an MVP, and you're thinking, can you really move on from those guys? It seems crazy.
I will say there were 2 plays that happened in the first half. One was a go route to A.J. Green down the right sideline. Kyler Murray doesn't keep him in bounds. The ball was complete, but A.J. Green caught the ball out of bounds. You got to keep the guy in bounds. And then the second one was the incompleted pass that was ruled a completion and a fumble, and then on review because of Sean McVay, it was ruled an incompletion correctly. Those 2 plays had a big deal in terms of the adverse negative effect on Kyler Murray, and of course not having DeAndre Hopkins on the field.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, do you think if we had Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray here in New York, we'd be complaining about him like
100%.
this? 100%. Yeah?
100% we would.
I mean, even after everything that we've saw.
The problem with Lamar is that he gets hurt now.
Yeah.
He's Daniel Jones all of a sudden the last couple of years. And it's because of the way he plays. And it's because of the way that Daniel Jones plays.
But don't you think that if either one of those guys got traded to the Jets or Giants, we'd be like celebrating it? I mean, after what we've seen with these teams in the quarterback position?
No.
You're telling me that people wouldn't be excited about that?
Maybe for the Giants, I guess.
Kyler
maybe.
Murray goes to the Giants. Lamar Jackson goes to the Giants. It'd be like, whoa.
All right, so let's say you get 9 or 10 wins during the season, and then you get that performance in the playoffs.
No, I know. I mean, the hope would be that he got better. I mean, that would be the hope. I mean, Matthew Stafford didn't win a playoff game until last night. So your hope would be that these guys would grow and mature and change and be better in the playoffs.
Well, I will say this: that maybe the Matthew Stafford teams, I have to go back and look at them. I don't necessarily know that they've ever really had a top 10 defense when he was there. I always felt like they were giving up 24 to 31 points no matter who they were playing, and he knew that he had to go out there and put up those kind of numbers. Now, that defensive line last night just absolutely killed the Cardinals on offense. I mean, they had the first 4 series, I think, with 3 and outs. So it's a money thing for me because, if you want to build a football team, you can't be giving guys like this $35 to $40 million and trust them that they're going to be able to camouflage whatever shortcomings you have on your roster if you give them that kind of money. I don't know.
But what do you do then? What do you just start over?
You make them play until they prove to you that you can trust them. Like you could trust Patrick Mahomes, you could trust Josh Allen.
But none of these guys ever get to free agency.
No, they'll get tagged. They'll get tagged, and they'll get a big contract.
But you don't even see the quarterbacks getting tagged. I mean, you saw Kirk Cousins get tagged.
Or you pick up your 5th-year option like they did with Baker Sam
Mayfield.
Darnold. Well, Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, and even with Lamar Jackson, they picked up the 5th-year option. So, all right, play another year and prove it to me.
You really think, though, that the Baltimore Ravens would let Lamar Jackson hit the open market?
I'm telling you, look, I'm just not paying these guys the money that they want.
Yeah, maybe you wouldn't, but I think that maybe the league would. I mean, I
don't know, man.
Because I think that they'd be asking themselves, they'd be like, well, what the hell else are we going to do? Go to the draft? There's only 10 or 12 quarterbacks that you're absolutely not questioning, even if that seems like a lot. Maybe more like 7.
Cliff Kingsbury wanted to explode on the sideline last night, but he couldn't because he knows the camera's on him, and he knows his quarterback is just absolutely pooping the bed.
Yeah.
And he's got to be careful about the expressions, what he says, how he does it. And, that's another thing, for these head coaches. They realize that the camera is always on them.
Oh, of course.
And everybody's looking for some sort of reaction from those people, from the head coach when a quarterback especially makes a bonehead play like Kyler did last night. But it's not like that's the first time he's done it. And they have no alternative either. I mean, they have Colt McCoy, but that's not the future of the Cardinals. The future of the Cardinals has to be right now is still going to be Kyler Murray. I'm just telling you, I am not giving him a contract. I am not trusting him with $150 million guaranteed.
Well, this was only his 3rd year.
Right, but they can give him an extension right now.
They could. Yeah, no, they could.
Way. Not a chance in hell.
Well, maybe not after last night's performance.
Not even close.
But he's had 2 more years. If 2 more years that they have him under control, if they want to pick up the 5th-year option and sort of decide at that point.
I guess if you're the Bidwell family and you're Steve Keim, their general manager, we'll run it back one more time with you guys. We'll give you one more time. There's that's what they should do, and that's what they will do.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.